Hey everyone. Hey, I was listening to True have his morning. I guess he's doing like morning hangouts now, and Negation decided to drop in there to talk about their debate that they're supposed to have been having. And I mean, I got to tell you, I think Ronnie's just gone off the deep end of the point of absurdity, because Negation went in there to basically do what I try to do when I wanted to have that debate with him, just to go in to suss out the details. And one of the conditions was they wanted to have on a kind of a neutral channel, and Ronnie like 6 times in that discussion said, well, we can have it right here right now, not understanding that Negation of P did not want it on his channel for principle's sake. And anyways, I decided to open the room and talk to Negation about it, because I want Negation in his own words to explain why he wants to have this debate with Ronnie, but especially not want to have it on any of those channels, because it does tend to support those channels. Hey, welcome, by the way, Nate.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, why I want to have it, that's actually a really good question. As far as having it, it was just kind of a knee-jerk reaction to a couple of things that he said, and of course his call-outs, which I find very entertaining. So, I had a little bit of time, and someone had sent me the link that, of course, they're talking again, and I happened to be on doing some work. So I was like, I'll drop in. And the main reason that I went on that channel today was because, again, I don't want to get too pointed, but what has happened throughout this entire thing is Ronnie continues to call me out in video after video. And when I try to contact him via Skype, which he specifically requested I do, I can't even get a text conversation. I get ignored for a day or two, and then he posts another video. Or potentially later that day he'll post a video, but he won't even respond to me in comments. So I'm like, you know what? I got the link. I might as well drop in and just let it be out there to his viewership that I'm willing, I'm ready, and if he wants to do this, then we can do it again. And again, this is entertainment for me. And yeah, I do have some pretty strong feelings that I've developed over the 8 years I've been screwing around on YouTube off and on. And one of my biggest pet peeves is a censorship. And I don't care where it comes from. I don't care if it's when I used to be on with the what's it called? Skeptic Fence show. That was one of the biggest problems we had between myself and Joe, which Live Life 84, 80, 70, I don't remember the Live Life something, is that I wanted any and all people to be able to call in the show and have open discussions. He didn't like that. He didn't want that to happen. And there were times where it seemed to me that there were some, let's say, in my opinion, dishonest practices going on, namely censorship and blocking of people that had dissenting opinions. Not to mention the only people that we ever had on as guests were atheists and people of like-mindedness, which all that does is create an echo chamber that no one ever moves forward. So as far as what Ronnie is, I guess, one of the things that he is claiming that he wants to have this on those channels is so it forces me and I guess in turn the rest of the atheist community into facing their side, their opinion. We're forced to listen. We're forced to be in a room that is doing absolutely nothing except hearing the opposite view, which is exactly what I've done from pretty much square one. I've gone on with Eric Hovind. I've gone on with Bible Thumping Wingnut multiple times. The one video that gets more views than anything, which number one is kind of ridiculous, but on my channel anyway, is the one where I'm on with 3 presuppositionalists, feeling an argument that, in my opinion, as far as I could tell, had never been put out there before. So to say that I'm not willing to go in those rooms is laughable at best. The reason I'm not going on his rooms is because I completely, at this point, disagree with censorship. My opinion is that if you have someone who is going to troll, is going to play those little games, you take them on nose to nose, either in the comments section or ask for a live discussion and expose them for what they're doing. If they want to make death threats, bring it on. If they want to, try and play these little games of, just trolling in general, great. And to me, that works so much better, because once the trolls understand that you're not going to, play their game, you're going to call it for what it is, and you're going to expose them for who they are, you don't tend to get those. And Ronnie's right. I don't get negative stuff on my channel that much. Now, granted, I'll still get Dramagate brought up from time to time. I'll still get, things about me going to hell. But again, I welcome those comments. I don't run from those comments. And in the same way that I'm not going to, I'm going to shop in a store that is, let's say, racist or bigoted or homophobic, I'm not going to support a channel by showing up and give him views or give him attention when I don't agree with his methodologies.
Yeah, it's funny. I had about a grand total of about 11 some odd people blocked over the last year, and it wasn't because of censorship or anything like that. It was just people that was literally spamming my comment section with like links and just what we consider to be pure spam, right? Any kind of negative comments. I don't delete any of them. They're all on there, and you can go see them. I'm exactly like you. Say what you got to say. And for going into next year, I have taken them all off. I've deleted my entire block list, right? Because I'm not scared of anybody saying anything, because I know I can refute anybody on this kind of stuff, because that's why I'm putting myself out there. What we all notice with Ronnie is that he has such a power trip and wants to manipulate things to his advantageous purposes. And when he's sitting there saying, okay, well, you come into my room and you're here now, let's have the conversation now. He's not understanding that the only reason you are there is because he cannot go anywhere else to even have a civil discourse, to even negotiate where to have this discussion at. Because you want this discussion. You've had him before. You've never ran. You've debated him before. You kicked his ass. Why he's now turning this around to saying, oh, well, he's a coward, and everybody else is like, oh, in that room just agreeing with him, oh, he's a Ned's a coward. Yet at the same time, you're like me. You're like, oh, I would love to have this discussion, but on a fair channel, not G-Man's, not Ronnie's, not Antonia's, because I don't support any of those guys either. But if you want to have it on Channings for Christ, you want to have it on Christian Anarchist, if you want to have it on General Han Solo, oh yeah, perfect, fine. But they're not trying to do that. Ronnie specifically, how many times did he try to say, well, why don't we just have it on my channel now? When you've told him, no, I am not having this on your channel, Ronnie. He is incapable of understanding and listening to somebody, and they're standing up for principle, because he doesn't know what it's like to have principles. And that's what I noticed when I was listening to that.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if he doesn't have principles. It's just that he is so focused and got such blinders on that all he cares about is, in my opinion, it's about the viewership. I mean, it's so blatantly obvious to me when he puts out stuff like, well, like what you were talking about yesterday, that he gets more views than you. Granted,
that was comical.
Well, and again, I look at it like this. I guarantee you, Neil deGrasse Tyson, there's a part of Neil who he likes the attention. There's no doubt. He's a performer and he's great at it, and I love what he does. But at the same time, if you were to corner him and say, look, Neil, you have a choice here. You either have to you have to refocus on your research and finding out what is true, and it's going to be boring, it's going to be monotonous, and your viewership is going to drop through the floor, and you're going to turn back into someone like you were 20 years ago that no one knew who you were. Or you can sit here and do these puff pieces, right, left, center, and have 10 million viewership on a daily basis. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but I honestly believe that someone like Neil would say, give me the former. I care more about the truth than I care about 10 million people watching me talk about Pootie Pie. And I guess that's where I'm at. I've been at 1,000 subs ish for probably 3 years now. And I put out one video a year at most, usually, unless something like this comes up. And the key is because, two things. Number one, it's a sideline for me. I'm not trying to make money or trying to do anything else with it. But more importantly, I'm only going to play with it when it's something that interests me and I like. Is it selfish? Absolutely. Do I understand people like PewDiePie and the Amazing Atheist and people who do this for a living? Absolutely. That's good on you. Keep going and build those viewerships, build that base, because those type of people allow people like me to have a forum to speak once a year, because without them, YouTube's not going to exist. And I don't have a problem with that, in that being a, like I don't know if you heard me, but called Ronnie a sub whore and a view whore. That's fine. And to be honest, I don't have a problem with people who do that at all. It doesn't bother me that they do it. It's just not what I want to do.
Yeah, but sure. Well, when you have when you're looking for the truth, right? Again, I'm happy to have a conversation even to this day with any one of them on anybody's channel that I think is fair, right? It's not for the subs, it's not for the views, it's nothing like that. It's just I have a lot of questions that are unresolved that I think that Ronnie needs to be held accountable for and answer to. He has never been in this room, which is kind of ironic, right? Because he's always saying how my room is, and yet he's never been in here. Yet I've been in his room dozens and dozens of times, and I say this with a straight face. I could pretty much only recall twice, maybe 3 times at most, of me leaving his room on my own.
Yeah.
Right? Because he always objects.
Well, and that was the other thing that's interesting. I didn't hang up on that conversation that we had earlier. Somehow I got dropped, and it may be a bad connection. I don't know. I'm not going to say
you got dropped. I noticed that your voice kind of wavered for like a split second. And then you were gone. So I did notice you lost connection.
Right. And it may have been just that connection. It may have been they dropped me. Either way, I don't care. I got my point across, and I would have gone on and rambled for another probably 30 minutes or so until I got frustrated to the point where I was just like, look, I've said when I need to go. So it was a good thing. But I mean, I hope, I'm not being too degrading to people who are doing it. Like you were saying before, that you'll go into any room and have a discussion, not for the subs and not for the viewership. Again, if that is your goal, good on you. Have fun with that. I'm more than happy to, support people who do that in an honest way. Even if they're trying to build viewership, even if they're trying to build, a base. Live Life, biggest in the world about building subs. He wanted subs across the board. He wanted a viewership. I was part of his channel or whatever for about 2.5 years, because I understand where he's going there. And again, I don't have a problem with that, as long as you understand where my principles are, and that when we get backed into a corner and we have to choose one or the other, you need to know I'm choosing to go ferret out the truth, no matter how boring, how monotonous, how non-viewer friendly that's going to be. I'm sorry, I've got to go that direction, because that's what I'm here for. And
yeah, we've noticed some experience though. You cannot have, it doesn't matter when you go in, you cannot have an honest dialogue in any of those clown car posse's rooms. Let's be realistic. We have enough evidence that accumulated over the last year that you really can't have an honest conversation. So when we say we don't want to talk in their rooms, it's not because of the viewers, it's not even for supporting their channel, which again, I do think you're right. Going to their rooms does support their channel in some ways, but I get that. But I was willing one time to even do it, because I was like, I want to have these conversations, right? If it helps their channel out, so be it. I mean, hopefully most people would realize that they're just a bunch of morons, and maybe come to my channel as well. I'm getting a little echo, by the way, but it's not that bad. But the point being is that they've demonstrated they were incapable of moderating, they're incapable of having civil discussions in their rooms. So when your conditions for this debate is very simple, I don't want to have it in any of the clown car posse's rooms, Antonio's, or any of them, no matter how fair that they think they are. It's a matter what we think their fairness is, and we don't think they're very fair at all. He can't say my room is not fair, and I know he would never come in here, and I get that, but my room has always been fair. People come in, they can say what the hell they want. We can have a discussion. He doesn't know what it's like to have a room like that. So other rooms that do have that, like Xbox, okay. Or who's some other, even Kay sometimes had decent rooms.
Well, Jade West, she's
Jade
always,
West. Oh yeah.
I mean, there's hundreds out there that are great channels, and I feel bad because I'm not naming, and the problem is I'm not around enough to even know, like half the guys that you mentioned earlier. I am embarrassed to admit I don't know, because I don't watch enough anymore. I'm working full time now, and I travel a lot. But and the only time I get down is literally when I'm down.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the problem is I guess if Ronnie or any of his people happen to see this, the same way that he would feel if I mandated we do this on Cult of Dusty, let's say. I don't know how big Cult of Dusty is though, but I mean, I know how boisterous he used to be and how basically just shouting people down and calling everybody stupid and then, whatever. It would be like me mandating that Cult of Dusty has to host. There's no way that they would want to go on that channel. They just wouldn't do it. And based on that type of perception that I have of, like you said, the clown car posse, which again, I hate to admit that I'm really not familiar with what that means, but I'll trust you. It's the same thing. And when he sits there and tells me, yeah, you've gone on in the past, that's exactly the point, Ronnie. I have gone on in the past, and you see what has happened. Without exception, I was cut off in mid-sentence. I was dropped in the conversation before I could get my point out. Again, the video that has more views on my channel than anything is the one where I went on Matthew 4:19's channel, allowed him to host it with 3 of those guys. And when the conversation started to turn, and in my opinion, they started to understand where the argument was going, I was cut off. They quit broadcasting without even telling me. But we had the conversation for about another half hour. And the only way that I found out was all of a sudden he goes, I wish this was still being broadcast.
Yeah,
like,
it's amazing. But you guys had your debate on an Xboxes last time when you did the debate on how intelligent design affects atheism. That was
exactly.
on Xboxes.
And so that's why I like Xbox.
Yeah, and Ronnie didn't complain about that. He had nothing bad to say about X's moderation of that
until today. I mean, I don't know if
he did mention something, but until then, I've never heard of any. And it wasn't even what he said today. Even wasn't that bad. But when you guys were in there, it was literally just you and him talking.
Yeah.
What's that? Just talking. You free for talking. You're free for all.
And it was a civil conversation. I didn't shout him down. He didn't shout me down. In my opinion, X did a great job of moderation. He never got involved as far as one way or another. At least I don't remember it. Now it's been a year or so. But again, I don't remember it. The same way on when I debated G-Man on blog on the Debate for You TV. He is the one who suggested that channel. And again, it was a great debate because Cy didn't get involved. He allowed us just to have the conversation, present what we felt, and then at the end, let real callers from all over the place call in and go back and forth. And for some reason now, Debate for You is not a Christian channel. I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever seen it, but go look at it and tell me how they could not be categorized as Christian. Now, it's not. Go ahead.
He came on actually right after you left, and he started explaining why they're not a Christian channel. But he actually said they're Black Hebrew Israelites, and I'm like, wait a minute, that they're Christians, right?
Christian, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's against Black group Israelites, but now what he's done now is he's basically said, okay, they're not my type of Christian, right?
Exactly, because they're not my flavor. It doesn't count.
Right. Exactly.
Really? I mean, Xbox is at best an agnostic, and that's not my flavor of atheism. Now, I definitely agree with Huxley and agnosticism, at least as far as Xbox does it, because I don't see how you can refute that. And that's where Xbox comes from. And that's why I like Xbox, because he's honest about where he is, and he's got real good reasons for why he believes what he believes. But again, that's not my flavor of atheism. Why am I willing to go speak with him or let him host? Because he's fair. And Shannon Rocky is a deist. And again, very good reasons for why she believes. Very difficult to even dispute, let alone bring a reason that you can completely discount it. But again, she's absolutely fair.
And she's dating an atheist.
Well, there you go. I mean, again, this is where I come from. Probably my favorite YouTuber that I've ever been associated with, Matthew Steele. Again, he is my flavor of atheist, and we get along on pretty much everything, but is completely open and honest enough to allow anybody to talk and, do whatever. And Matthew's kind of the same way as me. He hasn't done anything in a long time. I think it's more because of his internet connection than anything. But again, that's the type of people, or better yet, the best Christian that I know of that I absolutely love speaking with is Landon Mosley. He's part of Creation Today Ministries. He literally goes and has dinner probably once a month or once, at least every few months with the Hovens, both Eric and his dad. Me and Landon, he is an intellectual, he is extremely well spoken, and he is extremely well versed in what he's talking about, and honest enough to actually have a conversation. I have conversations via email with him pretty much, I don't know, monthly, if not weekly. And, we're actually talking about setting up a conversation with me and him and a couple other people within the next month or so to address a different topic, basically about, well, I'm not going to get into that because I don't know if it's going to happen. But anyway,
No worries.
But that's what I'm saying, is that as long as you're open, as long as you're honest, as long as you're fair, I'll speak with anybody. I mean, that's why, without knowing who Matt Slick was when I went on the Bible Thumping Wingnut, I was fairly excited, because you look at Matt's self-proclaimed accomplishments, and you're going, hey, this guy might be somewhat of a scholar. He has debated at university level. This is going to be pretty interesting. And I definitely want to know if the arguments that I'm putting out there are any way, shape, or form, worth trying to champion. And then I go on there and I completely get, and I think, to be honest, that's probably the one that kind of broke the camel's back. And just sent me, what, this is ridiculous. Unless I can go someplace where I know I'm not going to be cut off mid-sentence, I'm not going back on again. And, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I like people to have I like people to have honest positions. Like, I mean, as you said, we all have different theological positions. I am an agnostic, but I'm not a Huxleyan, but I respect Huxleyan. I get where Ruxbox is coming from, right? I mean, he has a well thought out epistemological framework, theological thing. I get that. I've come to a different way of thinking about agnosticism. But if somebody's an atheist, if somebody's a theist, if they're well versed and understand, can converse about it, that's all I'm looking for. I'm looking for honesty, right? And so I completely agree with you when there's certain people you want to have conversations with that may not be your flavor, but you trust them that they're coming from a position that they want to have truth. They want to have an honest discussion. And that's why I was so proud that when you went over there, you stood your ground, explained to them, look, this is a matter of principle. This is a matter of, I do not want to have a conversation about these things on any of these rooms that you've demonstrated you cannot have an honest conversation about. I kind of wish this would happen, but obviously I do think that they're running away at this point. How hard it would be for them to say, you know what, I really want to have a conversation with you. Let's have it on Xbox Room, because I went over that same thing and I told G-Man, let's have a debate on whatever, and something he's been dying for forever, and now he's like, no, I don't want to do that. Okay, well, fine.
I don't know if you heard, but I even offered. I said, look, we can have a private Skype conversation.
I did. I heard that. Yep.
I mean, how hard is it to do that? And
yeah.
Again, you're worried about being embarrassed. You're worried about being talked over. If it's a private Skype conversation, just leave. I mean, in the same way, if somebody calls me, a telemarketer calls me, now I'm kind of this is my approach to telemarketing, is the same way as trolls, is I take them head on and see how much time I can waste. I literally start a clock and see how much time I can waste of theirs before they catch on that I'm not buying crap, and then see how they blow up on the end because I've wasted their ability to call 3 or 4 different people, and then, basically laugh and have a good time with them because I have wasted their time. And, then I know they get paid on number of calls and how many closes. Well, if they're on with me for 30 minutes, they've probably not been able to call at least 3 or 4 people, let alone closed anything. And again, that's why I don't get telemarketing calls, because they take me off the list without me asking, because they know that I'm going to waste their time.
Do you know that I've actually been in off-air hangouts with Ronnie and I still got kicked out? I'm not lying. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And I'm being nice, right? I'm just having a conversation.
Exactly. I mean,
kicked out.
And that's my point, is that if you really care about understanding what's true, because I think the first point is that I'm going to come from this more from the Socratic side, in that I want to grant as much as you possibly I can to you and your argument, and then let's see if there's any inherent problems with that. Just like, the thing that we did last time about how a creator affects atheism. I granted everything he said, but instead of actually wanting to get down to the topic at hand of how does it affect atheism, he wants to deflect and say, well, not all atheists are like that. Granted that you're talking to one who is, so let's stay on point. Secondarily, how does this affect? because you have still got all of your work ahead of you to demonstrate that if a creator was the reason behind abiogenesis, or last Tuesdayism for that point, it still doesn't get you to a God. We still understand that simulation theory, we could all be a construct in a computer, panspermia from an alien race. I mean, there's all of these naturalistic explanations that don't require a God. And even if I grant you that all of this stuff is designed, you still haven't demonstrated any way, shape, or form that that mandates the existence of a God. And once I do that, instead of going, okay, let me show you why it does get us to a God, no, it's deflect and run away, and let's start talking about, all of the bonds, and, throw out all of these $10 words that he's looked up on. And that's another, I actually have some clips that I've been holding, and I don't know. I mean, there's a couple of videos that I can make addressing his problems with statistics, his problems with what he views as research, his problems with what he considers to be a peer-reviewed journal. And that's just in one video. This one video he put out, and I'm just, it grates on my nerves that these are the things that are being thrown out there as far as this is what this means. But at this point, and again, maybe I'm being cocky, and I don't mean it to be this way, because I know that this is kind of the, dick measuring, and I'm going to, pissing contest of, I'm going to make you feel so stupid that you have to debate me. No, that's not what I'm doing here. And yes, Ronnie, it's probably going to come off, at least as far as you're concerned, as condescending. But at this point, I'm really starting to believe that it's kind of like the athlete going and picking a fight with the cripple kid just to show that I can beat up the cripple kid. And I don't want to come off that way. I mean,
no, you're not. I don't think that you are. I think people understand that they had enough with Ronnie. You've risen to the challenge. You did what you had to do, just like I've done and other people have done, to try to get some discussion with them. You've said, look, I'm happy to have this discussion with you. All I'm asking you is that we just don't have it in your channel or G-Man's or any of these, and we'll find some other channel, and they are incapable of doing that. They want a show. They don't want a debate.
Exactly. They want to preach.
And that's the difference.
Well, and I think that's what religion fosters, is if you think about it, religion, at least in my opinion, is not about open and honest discussion like the scientific community, or definitely the scientific method. It's more about a preacher, a man of authority, standing up there and telling you what to do, what's right and wrong, and what you ought and ought not believe and do. Therefore, their conditioning is going to lead them to try to mirror that in their own channels. And again, that's how you want to be great. But in the same way that I don't like the taste of Diet Coke, I'm not going to go buy a Diet Coke. It's that simple. I mean, I don't like the way you guys do things. I'm not going to support you. If, you want me to drink the Diet Coke, well, you're going to make it taste more like Dr. Pepper.
I think that for 2017, that's what needs to be going forth. I mean, if he's demonstrated to the point where he can't have any kind of rational conversation in his own room, why is anybody going in there? I know a lot of people are just stopped. General Han Solo the other day said he's done. He's not going in anymore. I know that. There's somebody else that actually said that too. But a lot of people are just basically like, we cannot have a conversation with you guys. If you guys want to have a conversation, unblock everybody, start from scratch, and then if somebody trolls you, okay, you won't play this little bitch game that you're a little special little snowflake that can't take, a simple jab, then that's fine. But at least we can see the people that, again, hey, look at Ronnie deleted somebody for saying this. Ronnie deleted somebody for saying this. This actually looks bad for him. He knows that I just deleted my entire list of people. Anybody can come leave any comment you want. Go ahead. Except when it comes to trolling or racial things, I do not tolerate. But that's just all my personal thing.
But wait a second, Steve, because those are the comments that I most.
Well, let me explain trolling. Let me explain trolling before you, because I know what you mean. When I mean trolling, I just mean that somebody's putting like 15 comments, blah 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 blah, and I get a message every time. I'm like, look, I will have a conversation with you, but I get a notification every time you leave something like "fuck you" or the Earth is flat, the Earth is flat, the Earth is flat, or you leave these long, 17 paragraph long things. That's not the spam that I want on my videos, right?
And That I can kind of understand.
But that's it. If you say I'm a dickhead, you call me a fucktard, you can call me anything you want. I will leave those comments on there.
Well,
I don't care.
And then the ones that I was going to speak to more than anything was the racial deal. The racial comments and whatever, to be honest, those are the ones that I kind of live for on my channel. I love people to start playing that game because it is so just, I mean, it's, in my opinion, grade school level debating ability to demonstrate just how laughable and ignorant those type of statements are, to the point of ridiculing them. I take the Hitchens approach. If you're going to say something stupid, the gloves are off. And I mean, stupid in a way that's harmful, in my opinion, to other people. The gloves are off. I'm going to make you look like the most ignorant jackass that has ever walked the planet. And I feel, and the reason I think I enjoy it so much is because when I do that, and when I do, for lack of a better term, chase those people off or expose them to a point where they become silent, I feel like I've done something. I've accomplished something there.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree. But here's the difference, though. I don't have the time to do that with the racial people, right? I just don't. You're not on that often, so you kind of have that luxury. But exactly. when True Empiricists talk about racism, can I give a challenge out there to anybody that can refresh my memory or tell me, because I don't. Where anybody in this community has made any racial epithets or insults to Ronnie about his race? Because if you have one, I would like to know about it. Because he has made this claim multiple times that people have gone after, his, whatever race. I think he's American Indian. I think, right? But don't know. But yeah, I mean, nobody that I know of is sitting there talking about his race. They're talking about his dumb fuckery, his lack of education, his, in fact, that he just promotes his science as fact, and he doesn't know shit about it. That's what we're talking about. I don't give a damn what his race is. Nobody I know, nobody's ever been to my channel bashing on his race. It never has happened. Matter of fact, nobody's been on my channel ever bashing on the fact he was a Christian.
No, and I mean, I think you're right. I don't see that. Now, again, I don't sub to the more vitriolic type atheist channels, like I was mentioning with him, Amazing Atheist and Cult of Dusty and those type of guys, because I just don't like that style.
I don't watch the Drunken Peasants either, and I don't like the Militant Atheist either.
Right. So I mean, it may come from that side, and if it does, it's wrong. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It needs to be exposed, and it needs to be. And again, I understand where you're coming from, because you've got so much more to deal with, because your channel is. And congratulations on this, by the way.
Thank you.
For lack of a better term, it's blowing up. I mean, like we were talking about the other day, the people you're getting on is outstanding. So kudos for you, man. You're doing great.
Thank you.
But if little outlier channels like mine will take on those people and go nose to nose, if you feel, if it's something fun and something you enjoy, I think it would quell that. And this goes out to any Christian channel. If you have somebody trolling you like that, contact me. I will jump in the middle of the conversation and enjoy every second of it if I've got the time. I love to go after racists. I love to go after white supremacists. Most people don't know this. I've got another account that, again, has nothing to do with this one, and there's no way you could figure out who I am, but I literally go after white supremacist channels purposely from a genetic standpoint. And the easiest one, just to give somebody, if they want to ever do this, you want to go to a white supremacist channel and completely destroy their self-image and everything that they hold true. All you have to do is find one that has brown eyes, and then throw out there that from a genetic standpoint, because you have brown eyes, you are not Aryan. Therefore, you are a mudblood. You have, and then you can drop all the slangs or whatever you want to. You need to quit talking about the white race, because you're not pure white all the time posing as a white supremacist. And you want to talk about people losing their minds, because every time they look in the mirror, they have to see those brown eyes, which, real or not, that little seed of, I've got whatever blood in my family, I'm a mixed blood. They lose their.
So what do you do? You go in as a Aryan supremacist to an extreme.
Exactly, and I say, yeah. So I just go on there and I'm like, you need to shut the hell up. You're not part of the white race. All you have to do is look in the mirror. You have brown eyes, which definitely shows that somebody in your in your family in their past had a child with either a black person, and of course not using those terms, but some, of the quote lesser races, therefore you are not of us. Do not ever post on here again. If you're part of a white supremacist group, I will find out and I will make sure that they ostracize you because you are not us. It's the same thing as having, a Mexican person, a Hispanic, whatever, but of course, a lot more derogatory terminology. Wearing the Klan robes, you people are a disgrace. And then just drop that bomb and walk off.
Have you ever had anybody figure out that, that you're making a point about that and they just kind of said, you know what, maybe this bullshit is stupid?
The funny thing is what I get the other side. I get other blue-eyed people, or the other, the other side that are the quote Aryans, the true bloods.
Agreeing with you?
They come in and they say, you're making a great point, but you got to understand that, that even if they have brown eyes, it's been diluted enough to where they're still. So great job on your research, brother. Good job on your your passion for this, but I think you're a little bit off on where you're going. So then I'll just go, show me the genetics. Show me how they cannot have mixed blood, and then we can talk. And it usually goes dead silence. So my job, when I'm from that channel, what my job is to fragment as much as possible. Because if you think about it, blue-eyed people are less than 10% of the population. If I remember, maybe 30%, I can't remember. But if I can get it to where you've got a subset of a subset of a subset, it's going to be to the point where it's so fragmented that they have 10 people in the group, and who cares? They're...
Mine are Hazel, so I'm kind of in the minority there. But let me ask you, have you ever had the displeasure of going into Tom Rabbit's room? And not his rooms, that's not the displeasure. I like Tom. But going in there and having to deal with like Iron Nation or Atheist or Dionysus? Have you ever read into any of them?
No, because I'm definitely just a comments guy.
They're all racist. They're all, to an extreme. And I don't go in anymore for that very reason. Because again, I don't want to waste my time with racism. It needs to be addressed. I get that, and if you're one of the people that love to do it, then my hat's off to you. Take that mantle and run with it, and do all you can do to fracture them, because I am like so anti-racist. They're too extreme, right? Because
if there is someone who's on the opposite side of the fence, if you think of a hardcore racist, I guarantee you I am the exact opposite. I am a hardcore. Universalist is the only term I can think of. I know that's a religious term, but I mean, again, race does not matter. It's humanity. Literally, there's one race. It's humanity.
Well, that's why it's upsetting when the Ronnie and them trying to say that atheists are racist, atheists are doing this, atheists are bigots, blah blah, and all the only instances of bigotry and the things they're accusing us of, the atheist and agnostic community, is that they're actually perpetuating these things. They have projected these things onto another group because they're committing these things. They are bigoted. They are.
They have to be. And the reason I say that is if you look at Old Testament, God specifically mandates that other tribes, quote, other races potentially. Well, it is other races. If you think of the Nephilim, if you want to consider the Nephilim another race, that's exactly it. They are to not only be ostracized, but to be eradicated to the point of genocide. You kill the entire race of Amalekites. You kill the entire... That, in my opinion, again, being preached as a moral good sets up at least an environment that will allow for bigotry, if not foster it and perpetrate it. Anyhow, you know what I meant.
Yeah, and I know you're limited on your time right now, because I know what's going on with you. But do you have any final things that you want to, like, before you do have to go, get it out there? Because like I said, I don't think you would ever be able to express what you want to Ronnie in his room, because he shuts you down just like he does anybody else. Go ahead and say it here, because we actually have almost twice as many people listening. And again, I do things for views. I'm not going to front about that, but I want honest conversation. And
in the same way that you tell me to go out and do the racist deal, I'm the same way with you on subs. Go get them, man, and it's working for you. There's no one that can. You get PZ Myers dropping in. It's kind of hard to dispute that you're not doing something pretty well.
That did shock people, didn't it?
exactly. So again, good on you, and keep going. And the thing that I like is like channels like yours, channels like Xbox. Those are the ones that I want to see grow. The thing that bothers me a lot about YouTube, and I know I'm going on a rabbit hole here, but you do have the more vitriolic and the more emotion-driven channels that seem to blow up, that seem to get hundreds of thousands of views. And then the ones that are, more substantive, they almost go, completely unheard. And that was my biggest frustration with the first couple of years that I was on YouTube, is trying to put out what I consider to be meaningful content and getting 200 or 300 views and nothing but positive comments in the comment section. And then I put out something that is as idiotic as Dramagate or that whatever deal with the presuppositionalist deal, and now I'm getting 30,000 views. And I'm just like, people, I mean, I know Honey Boo Boo is fun to watch, but let's go over and watch Discover or watch Nova. Let's go watch that type of stuff. And again, I know his personality, and I don't want to belittle anybody, but that's my frustration.
So I tell you what, if I do get Neil deGrasse Tyson this year, would you shit yourself?
Oh, dude. I mean,
you know you got an invite to the table, right? I mean, you will definitely be there if I get him, because I will work on it.
He won't remember me. I went to, when he came and spoke here, I went and spoke with him, or went backstage and, did the little pass deal. I got to meet him for 2 seconds and shake his hand, whatever, and had a little conversation. He won't remember that, but I remember that quite fondly. So absolutely, if you get him, I'd love to come on and talk to him again. I mean, him and probably, well, I got to admit, if I'm going to put a scientist up there, Richard Feynman is, I mean, I'm sorry, I love you, Neil, but Feynman's Feynman. So, but anyhow, getting back to the Ronnie deal, the only thing that I would like to kind of point out, and again, I'm on the fence. I've got the videos kind of half made. Go ahead.
We'll just look at now and think about, how would we get Feynman in here with a Ouija board?
Exactly. That's the only way you get it.
I was thinking about that. I'm like, wait a minute. How's that going to do that?
No, I was just saying that as far as all time,
Oh, I got you. Okay. I had to think about that. I was like, wait a minute, he's dead. What is that talking about? Okay. By the way, they released all his notes online, and
oh yeah,
I don't know if my God, I mean, genius. Just, I mean, God, man, that can understand that amount of technical detail.
And what is so cool about Feynman is it's not. I mean, granted, all of the stuff that he did from the scientific end of it is absolutely amazing, but it's his ability to go on virtually any topics. I don't know if you've seen any of his discussions, just sitting with
Feynman lectures and things like that. Yeah. I mean, one of the most brilliant people of all time.
Right. And just anything on education, on, just humanity. I mean, just the ability to be so intellectual on pretty much anything he speaks on, and do it in a way that can make even old dumb bus driver guys like me understand this. So
the complete antithesis of Ronnie.
Well, and I think that's the thing, is that, you listen to Feynman, he very rarely uses any terminology that a fifth grader couldn't understand. He's not going to throw out these, like I said, $10 words that Ronnie feels are so important, because it's not about the posturing. It's not about him trying to prove that he's an intellectual. He knows he's an intellect. He knows that he understands this stuff. And in the same way that, hopefully, and this is where my teaching style comes from, I love teaching because it's about the ability to transfer information. He understands that using those big words, people are going to shut off and not listen. If, Ronnie, you want people to listen to you, you need to use words that everybody can understand. And that's what the power, to me, that was what's so influential about Feynman. But anyway, getting back to the things that, as of late, I was going to speak to Ronnie about, is understanding. The first thing that I think really shocked me is that he put out that video about statistics and how only having a sample size of 1,000 or whatever is not big enough for a population of 6 million. So I went in and just dropped a comment in his section saying, look, you really need to go and understand what sample size means, and gave him a couple of other terms, that if all he would do is research, and now I want to focus on that word for a second, research these terms he would come to understand why the sample sizes are more than sufficient to give a pretty good descriptor of the entire populace. And the reason I want to focus on the word research is because his reaction to research is all Negation did is go and tell me to Google a term. If he is equating research with Google, I'm just
he's really diminishing with the word actually. I mean, he's never had actually done any academic research of any kind.
And that was one thing I was going to put up is that, you know, my wife is literally a research scientist. She works in a national lab, multiple degrees, PhD, you know, published hundreds of times. She's a researcher. Do you think that they pay her to go and Google all day? I'm sorry.
He probably does think that. He probably does. His limited understanding of it. By the way, I want to point out real quick. Ned's on a phone right now, and it's just a black screen because he has no icon. So I just have a splash screen. So anybody watches the video in the future, I'm not actually showing the Hangout thing because all you'd be looking at was a void. Right.
Right. Yeah. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. But people wonder why I have a splash screen. Okay. This is just going to be an audio conversation only. Just okay. FYI.
So, you know, Ronnie, research the word research.
Google the word research. There's some irony there somewhere. You're doing research by Googling the word research inception.
But just so I'm clear on that, research means that you go out and you actually try to understand the concept at hand. You don't find a definition of a word. That is rote knowledge. That is the most basic type of knowledge that humanity can have. And the best example I have is I have a 6-year-old son. If I walk down to him right now and I say, what is 7 times 7? He will, without missing a beat, give me the exact answer. I mean, and you're going, a 6-year-old, wow, that's great. No, it's not. Because all I've done driving around when we're in there is just condition him that when I put in the stimulus of 7 times 7, what comes out? 49 every time, without exception. He has no idea what multiplication is. That is rote knowledge.
Right.
And in my opinion, that's what Ronnie is looking at, what these words, sample size and, Z-score and all of the stuff that I was trying to get him to go actually look up. And then even if you don't, and the point that I tried to make in my video is look, you don't necessarily have to understand this stuff or be able to crunch the numbers yourself. And I admitted, even given the formula, more than likely, I could not do that on my own because I'm not a statistician. And even though I have the variables, I'm not going to understand how to plug it into each one of the points on the equation, let alone understand if the values that I'm plugging into that equation have been vetted and are real legitimate numbers that will give me a good output. But there are places like SurveyMonkey, which sounds funny, but it is a legitimate and very good source that is used throughout the scientific community to understand what sample size they need for the populace they're studying, because they have vetted the mathematics. They have come to understand what equations work. And again, it's multiple equations, not single equation. And if you noticed in his response to that video, he pointed out the fact that I even got different numbers. Of course I got different numbers because there's different methodologies. There's different equations going on there. But the point is that when you start to equate research, a desire and an ability to go out and acquire knowledge, not to a rote level, but to hopefully one day all the way at the other end of the spectrum of an application level, that's what your goal should be. And when you can't bridge that gulf, you don't understand the levels of understanding or levels of education, it's going to make your job pretty hard to defend your positions. And that's where I feel Ronnie is falling into. And then when you cite, in that same video later on, he cited a paper that had been pulled down because the verbiage in there had referred to a creator, and he is ironically complaining about censorship in scientific journalism. Well, it took me about 10 minutes to go and look at the publisher, the journal, and come to find out that it is not a scientific journal. The way that you get published in that is you literally spend $2,000 or $3,000 and they publish that's how they vet these quote unquote scientific papers. You have to pay for them. Again, my wife literally does this for a living. She is part of the peer review process. She reviews papers for publication. She volunteers her time. Every paper that comes across her desk is up for review, and it costs nothing. Anybody can try to publish a paper. You would, in any legitimate journal, go and look at Nature, go and look at any, try and find a page where it's asking the author to contribute money. There's not, because they understand that if they do that, it's a roadblock and it would cause certain papers to not be able to be published. This site that he's going to is exactly the opposite of that. Not only are they asking for money, but they're asking for thousands of dollars to get this thing, quote unquote, published. And the big flag is, and he says this from square one, the reason it got pulled is because the comments section, the people were so negative toward this this paper. There's no peer-reviewed journal on the planet that has a comment section that they're going to look at and determine the validity of a paper based on a commenter from the internet.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, you know, it's funny, and correct me if I'm wrong. By the way, they think, they think research, like creationist publications are legit journals. This is their misunderstanding. But correct me if I'm wrong, but the author of that paper, he even admitted it was a translation error. He did not mean to imply there was some type of creator. And didn't the editor of, it is a journal of some kind. It's not a very impactful journal. It's not even a scientific journal. But didn't he resign because he had the ultimate responsibility of it, and he felt because he let that go through because it was a translation error that he resigned for it?
To be honest, once I found that it was a paid journal, I didn't go any farther, because to me, it's ridiculous. I mean, you might as well be, it doesn't mean anything once you start to get that type of vetting process, which I'm definitely using that word very loosely. In other words, do I have $2,200, $2,500? Okay, now I've got a published paper, which again, if you went to a national lab and were trying to interview for a job and they said, you have any publications, and you pull that out of your pocket, you're going to be laughed at to the point where, I mean,
yeah, it's kind of like somebody saying that I'm an author and they're a self-publisher, right? I mean, it's not much different.
Right. And then the final thing that I had the problem with that one video was he was trying to demonstrate that the sample size was, invalid because the petition that was signed by 1,000+ scientists that don't agree with evolution. And again, the fundamental lack of understanding of how statistics work and what is a meaningful sample and what is not. By definition, a petition is a biased sample. All you're getting people is from one side. When you get a cross section, you get a sample size or a sample of a populace, it is supposed to be randomized. It is supposed to be from just a scattering of the entire community, and you definitely need to try to control for bias. So when he sits there and says, well, we got 1,000 people that don't like evolution, I can go find 1,000 people who, of course, think the earth is flat, think that aliens killed JFK. Does that mean that they're just as valid as the people who actually have years and years of research? Or that would indicate the rest of the planet feels the same way? No. So for him to equate a survey, a scientific survey, with a petition is just mind-blowing.
It's a fundamental misunderstanding. It's a fundamental misunderstanding.
It's just, he looks at it and says 1,000 here, 1,000 there, they're the same.
No, because the question, the questions asked was loaded, right? And in fact, most of those people that did sign that regretted it. A lot of them were talking specifically about Darwinian mechanisms, which we all know are, many, 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 many years old. Half the people on there don't even exist. The other ones are not even biologists, right? So it's completely flawed across the board. So he doesn't understand what you were talking about as far as methodological approaches to have a random sampling, not a poll. Not a petition. I'm saying not somebody saying, do you agree with us? Come sign this if you agree with us. That is not a random sampling.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying is you don't even have to go so far as to go and try and vet the people who have signed it. Maybe there are people on there that are dead. Maybe there are people on there that regret it. You don't have to go that far. Grant them the 1,000, 2,000 people that do it. It is meaningless as far as a statistical analysis, because what you're looking there is a completely biased sample. Everything there is about,
it's tainted. Yeah, it's tainted just from that alone. Sure.
You can't use that as anything to bolster a snapshot of the populace at whole. You just can't. And for him to not understand that, again, is almost beyond my ability to express.
It's a lack of his basic education. I mean, he never took stats, right? And so, you talk about rote memorization, and I've done rote memorization. I'm not gonna lie. A lot of things I did in the nuclear power program was rote memorization.
Dude, you know as well as I do. A lot of the stuff, like your field and mine, I'll put it out there. I'm a pilot. We have checklists, and 99% of the checklists that I do every day, even though if I had to drill down, I'd understand why I'm doing what I'm doing out of that checklist. But in reality, it's rote. When the flaps come in, what speed am I supposed to be here and here? Those are all rote knowledge. It's useful, and you need to have that in the same way that if I say what's 5 times 5, immediately 25, instead of taking the time to actually work it out and break it out into 5 groups of 5 and count all the. It's a very useful tool in certain circumstances, but you have to understand behind what that is if you're going to try to defend a position based on that quote unquote piece of information. And that's what I'm saying is the disconnect is that he throws out all these $10 words, and all of a sudden I'm supposed to be impressed. But when we start to drill down and say, okay, explain that to me, as I could do with Feynman, and Feynman would go, okay, bring your 6-year-old in and I'll show him what this means.
You can't do it.
Exactly. It's just regurgitation of the same crap over and over and over again, in the same way that if I said, hey, son, what's 5 times 5? And he goes 25. And I go, okay, well, teach your friend why that is. And he would just turn to him and say, 5 times 5 is 25. Remember that. 5 times 5 is 25. Again, you're right, but it doesn't demonstrate any skills beyond rote.
Well, I hate to bring it up, but because going in the new year, maybe we won't have to anymore. But the perfect example, and everybody cringe right now, but the perfect example was the whole DNA degrading in water debacle.
Exactly. Yeah.
That demonstrated, bar none, of somebody who tries to have a rote memorization, somebody who goes to Wikipedia and picks things up, but does not have a basic understanding of the actual topic. That's a perfect example. And which, by the way, P.Z. Myers did agree. Ronnie's an idiot. Of course, dissolve and degrade are 2 different things. He was just stunned to the fact that anybody could be out there thinking that if you put DNA, water would fall apart, and you still do a PCR and all this other stuff. He was really it's like, really? No. I'm like, we're like, yeah, PZ. So he got a kick out of that, I think.
Well, that's good. At least he got again. At least from my standpoint, that's what I'm here for, is to be amused and to have some fun and hopefully learn something along the way.
That's my channel. My channel's entertaining. You know what his channel's under?
No.
News.
Wow, really?
I'm not. Yeah. Mine's at least. I'm self-aware, right? My channel's for entertainment. People listen. They enjoy it. They come in. We had 24 people in here yesterday. And by the way, if anybody notices, we had 25 people. You didn't see it from the video because it cuts off. But when we have 24 people in here and nobody got upset, nobody talked over people, nobody muted, nobody had a conniption fit, it was well organized. Can you imagine if you had 24 creationists like that in a room with a single evolutionist? Because we had one young earth creationist in there, Wyatt. He got plenty of time. He had a one-on-one with PZ. He was treated fairly and respectfully. So yeah, when anybody says that a bunch of atheists or agnostics or the non-believers can't have conversations, or it's just a circle jerk, I'm going to say it, you can go fuck yourself. So
well, that I left a comment on a G plus earlier about it. It literally amazes me that the projection that some people have, and again, this is both sides of the fence. I had personal relationship with people who will kind of do this exact same thing, but they'll go out of their way to not only recognize that a certain type of behavior is bad, for lack of a better term, but they'll find people and chastise them about it while doing the exact same things themselves. It is amazing to me that they don't see that. And they don't at all, because they projected so much, and then they put the blinders on, right? They're throwing this projection out there, and then they filter anything out that won't let them realize that what they're saying is exactly what they're doing. They don't look inside and realize, what, maybe we need to self-analyze ourselves. Because when General Han Solo went in there the other day and said, hey, look at guys, you guys are saying you guys are Christian, you need to have a little bit more Christ-like attitude. If you think that these people over in Steve's room are wrong, you think all the scientists are wrong, you know what? Okay,
but have enough of a Christianic perspective, saying, you know what, I want to tell them about Christ, therefore I should have a little more tolerance, a little more, like you said, let the water roll off like a duck's back. I think you made some analogy like that in Ronnie's room about having a little more thicker skin. If they can't do that, then they're not actually promoting what I think is Christianity. When you see people come in here like Fiona and Jade and General and Christian anarchists, they're Christians, but they come in, saying, look, I believe this, and they represent Christ, the beliefs I think Christ would be proud of.
And again, if you want to, and that's, if you believe the New Testament in that way, in my opinion, you have to almost throw out the entire Old Testament. But again, let's say that the New Covenant supersedes that, and it is all about love in Christ and inclusivity and everything else. Great, but like you said, if you're going to champion that, you better live that. And in the same way that I guess my belief is reflective of kind of Socrates and that type of, at least to a certain degree, but the Socratic method. If I'm not willing to self-reflect and put myself on the line, like you were saying, and go, look, they are saying that I am bigoted, or maybe not bigoted, but I am, I don't know, arrogant, and I am condescending, and I am, maybe I am, and I'm not seeing it. Great, show it to me. Where am I doing that? If I am, I honestly think that takes away from my ability to understand things and gain knowledge, because people aren't going to want to talk to someone who's condescending. They're not going to talk to someone who is belittling to other people. So, and granted, I make videos from time to time where I screw with people. I got screwed with Ronnie. There's no way around it. That was meant as a jab and as, the dumb fuck of the year and all that. But again, when I look at that, that is more of a fun video and something to just kind of, talk shit back and forth between people. It's, on one hand, yes, it's serious because I'm trying to get him to wake up and go, hey man, look what you're doing here. But at the same time, it's a entertaining way to do it. So I can understand why he looks at me as condescending and, whatever. But if you and he was saying that I got upset on G-Man's channel one time. I got upset with Arcane Logos on a conversation that he's absolutely right. But when you look at why I was upset, it was not because of what they were saying. It was because of what they were doing. And what I mean is the avoiding, in my opinion, avoiding the questions, trying to move the goalpost, do everything you can to save face instead of go, you know what? I don't have an answer for that right now. That's all I ask, because I'm there. There's a ton of things that I don't know. Just say, look, I don't know right now. If I ever figure something out, I'll come back and talk to you about it. But, at this point, you seem to have a little bit better position on that than I do. I got to admit that. That's all I'm asking. But to sit here and play this little presuppositional BS of, well, how do you know? Could you be wrong? Yeah, we're not playing,
We've all lost our shit at some point in time. I've lost my shit with Nephilim Free earlier on. I've learned, over a period of course of time, sometimes it's better to let people hang themselves. We all do. These are learning experiences, right? I've been a lot more calm to people than I was, a little over a year ago. I will still lose my shit occasionally, I guess. I'm not going to say that it won't happen. But certainly I don't do it with like Ronnie. When I was going in there the last couple of times I did talk to him was many, many months ago. I didn't go off on him. I didn't talk, I didn't yell at him. I was just like, I was hoping we can have this debate on turbines, a turbine. Now I'm saying him, a turbine. He calls it turbines, by the way. And I was like, I would like this to happen because I've already started making the presentation. I want to be able to explain to you different staging and why it's not the same as this ATP synthase and why it's, bad analogy. And we could not agree on what channel to have it. I'm like, look it. These are the conditions. You already said you would do this debate. I don't remember whose channel was supposed to be on, but it doesn't matter. Like, have it on Hog Ties, have it on Hannah, whoever that, it doesn't matter. Just not his. No, he wanted it on his channel. He didn't want it on, is ATP synthase a good analogy to call it a turbine? He wanted on intelligent design versus evolution. And I'm like, that is too big of a topic. That is not the topic we agreed upon. You can't just negotiate a debate and then literally 5 seconds later turn around and try to change the terms. And that's what I noticed him doing with you. That's why I pointed it out. This is not about Ronnie just being uneducated or bad at science or being a dumb fuck. This is not about that. This is now about pure duplicity. This is basically him being unable to even have dialogues with anybody anymore because he wants to control the conversation. He wants to have that ability to mute people. And I tell you right now, Ned, he will sit there and he'll keep his finger on that mute button, just waiting for somebody to say something where he can mute.
Oh, he muted me at least twice in the conversation we just had this morning. And that's
did he mute you this morning?
Oh yeah, he muted me.
Oh really? Oh shit, really?
And that's when I don't know if you heard me on. That's when I said that's exactly why I'm not coming on here, Ronnie.
Because, I heard you say that, but I didn't know it was because you muted him. I thought it because he said something.
But I mean, again, I'm about either being educated or educating other people. And again, I could be wrong on what I'm trying to educate, and therefore I get to learn. And I mean, I say this all the time, and my wife is the best in the world at kind of pointing out how I am irrational when it comes to some of the things that I think are just self-evident, and why don't people get this? What's the deal? And actually over the last year or so, I've really been looking into this to why this is the case. But especially, it seems in America, being wrong is considered to be a negative. It's a bad thing. Someone says you're wrong, and all of a sudden you're embarrassed, and your defenses go up, and it's horrible. It's almost worse than being called, it's some racial slang. Whereas my opinion is being wrong is a good thing. I honestly like to be wrong, especially if I'm going into a debate and going into something that I have a heartfelt belief, and it's, let's say, foundational to what who I am. And the reason being is that if I'm wrong, I can change. I can get better. If I'm right, I'm stuck. There's nowhere to grow from being right. It's at least in that area, I'm stuck. And I think what drove this home to me is it was late in my college years, and I came home. I was at home for the summer, and I'm from Texas, so most of not my immediate, but most of my family is pretty bigoted, not to mention my friends, especially when it comes to LGBTQ type people. And there was something on the TV, and my dad was sitting in his chair reading his paper as usual, and half listening to the TV, and of course wanting to, I guess, impress my dad. There was a story about some gay guy doing something, and I turn, and I'm an idiot, 20-year-old, and I turn to my dad and say something to the effect, if that faggot ever came on to me, I'd beat his ass, and my dad drops his paper and looks me square in the eye. And remember, now this is a guy born in the early 40s, grew up in the deep South, drops his paper and looks at me and goes, "You ever say something that ignorant again, I'm kicking you the hell out of the house the next 10 minutes. And I'm just like, what? He goes, think of it this way. If a woman came on to you, you'd be flattered. A guy is brave enough in this day and age to walk across the aisle and tell you that he finds you attractive, and you're going to kick his ass for having that bravery and paying you that compliment. You're an ignorant jackass. You better never say that again." That was a fundamental change in my life.
Learning moment. Yeah,
exactly. Because if he would have supported what I had said in the beginning, I may still be a bigoted idiot.
He would have reinforced what you said. Yeah. In the behavior.
But because two things. Number one, he was someone I respected and was willing to listen to. I completely changed who I was from that point on. And that's what demonstrated to me that being wrong is actually a good thing. You can become a whole lot. Well, that's the only way, in my opinion, to become better, is to identify where you're in error and be brave enough to say, you know what? I was screwed up for 20 something years there. I'm changing. I'm not going to be that jackass anymore. And so when I speak to people like Ronnie, it seems to me that they are so afraid of being wrong, so afraid of being embarrassed, that it's not about information anymore. It's about, I've got to prove I'm right. And Matt Slick's even worse in my opinion, but because apparently he's got all of his education, apparently, he can't afford to be wrong.
Right. He's got too much invested.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then when you have something that's wrong, I mean, I'm perfectly fine when I go into a situation with somebody, like for example, like with Rumpus or a couple of people, and I say, you know what, I may be wrong on this. I mean, you could show me that I'm wrong on the science or the physics. I'll accept, a rebuking on this. If I'm wrong, go ahead. And they've done that a few times. They have. A few times I've been correct, but the ones sometimes that I'm wrong, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, you know what? That's what I wanted to see. You showed me what I needed to look at because I understand this well enough to say, you know what? Yeah, I was wrong on it. I had a mistake, right? The mistake doesn't mean that you don't have a knowledge, right? The mistake means that something is just wrong, and you want to figure it out because we don't all have perfect knowledge. But if you know something, that you understand the concepts, when somebody explains it to you and something triggers to you, and you go, yes, you know what, you're right. Of enlightenment. Now, there are some things that I will say that I'm not wrong on and cannot be wrong on. The shape of the Earth, it's not flat. The age of the Earth, not 7K. Now,
I can, Steve. I guarantee you, I can take that apart.
Hang on. I know you're going to this. Now, I do believe I cannot be wrong on this. However, if someone does show me enough evidence, I can still be convinced. I can still be like, you know what? You show me. I will always be open to anybody if they have enough information. But what I believe is this: I don't think it's available to anybody that can show me that the Earth is flat. But I will be able to listen. Does that make sense?
And that I guess that's the difference. When you said that you can't be wrong, and I mean, this kind of goes back to the conversations I had with presuppositionalists and what note stem from that argument, that whatever. But anyhow, is that my feeling is there's very few things that we can have absolute certainty about, and they're all internal. You can have nothing that is absolutely certain from an external standpoint, including the Earth being round. Now, do I believe
Cartesian certainty? Yes,
exactly. Mm-hmm. So, and I understand it ends up with solipsism and all of that. But
right.
the point that I'm making is that if a person is brave enough to take their fundamental beliefs and say, look, not only can I be wrong about this, but I want to be wrong about this. I want to know if I'm wrong about this. That to me is where scholarship and true epistemology really starts. You've got to have that. And when you've approach it from the other end, saying that, okay, this is the truth, i.e. the Bible, the Quran, wherever you want to go, this is the truth. I know it's the truth. And for whatever reason, there's no way I can question that. Is 100% certain that is it. You can never grow from that point.
Absolutely.
And so,
well, when I say that, like, for example, when I say there's certain things that I cannot be wrong about, we're talking about the frameworks of things. If I say I cannot be wrong about 1 + 1 = 2, that is an analytical proposition that we have defined by axioms. I cannot be wrong on that based upon mathematics. Would you agree with that?
On a base 10 system. See, that's what I'm saying.
Sure, on a base 10 system, right. We're not talking about binary or anything like that.
But you see what I'm saying there is that it's all conditional. It's all about what framework you want to
right within the framework we're talking about was my point, though.
Right. And within stuff like that, and again, to me, that is an internal validation. It's not about the external world.
Sure.
So let's say, and what I'm probably most famous for on the Christian side is admitting that I don't know, capital K know, that my wife exists, but I love her nonetheless, and that I do, capital K, know that my love for her is real.
Because that's internal.
Right. And it doesn't matter if she exists or not. The love that I feel for her is still real. And when I admit that, I mean, it's like I'm admitting that, or I'm saying that I don't know 2 + 2 is 4. They completely lose their mind and feel like they've won everything because I can have no knowledge. No, what I'm admitting is that the knowledge that I have, capital K knowledge, is extremely restricted. There's very, very few things that I can know to that degree of certainty. And those things that I know are independent of what reality is. So if my wife doesn't exist and this is all a computer construct and she's just some line of code someplace, it doesn't matter, because the internal reaction to me is still real, regardless what the stimulus is, real or fake.
It's the same either way. To you, exactly. you don't know either way, of course.
And,
that's an honest approach, though. That's an honest approach to form your epistemological framework.
And to me, that's what I'm saying is if you can start from there, then anything is open. And at least where I'm at, it's fun. because now I can play all these games with solipsism and singularities and just all of the kind of really out there deals and try to play the game to where, okay, why do I believe what I believe? Could I be wrong? And am I willing to change if I am?
You can still do it as a hypothetical, right? I don't have to change my whole worldview and say, you know what, I could be wrong on everything. I mean, I'm not God. I cannot be wrong on that. I am not Jesus. Okay, I'm not God. I don't see how any way there'd be anything that say that would ever happen. Or I can't say that I'm not myself, right?
Yeah.
You know, I am myself. That could be no other way. So there are some things we can know. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to instill doubt in people that, oh wait, because there are things we may not know. You can't trust anything, right? And that's where the argument fails, because there are some things we could trust.
But see, that's where it ends up completely, when you flip it and turn on its head. That's what I did with Nope. Is say, okay, let's say that the one true thing in this existence is God, all powerful, you know, the omni-God. Well, then that means that you can't have any knowledge, period, even in your own existence. Whereas I understand that my existence was real, no matter how fleeting, no matter how meaningless, at least meaningless on a grand scale, it happened. I have that. That grounds me. As a Christian, as someone who believes in an omni-type God, you can't even have that, because that God, being all powerful, could erase you from history and you would have never existed. And then they say, well, God wouldn't change. No, it's not changing his plan. That was part of his plan. For some reason, because God is mysterious and works in miraculous ways, part of his plan was to have you exist on one timeline to a certain point, and then for whatever reason, God has his reason, you no longer existed past that point in time.
The certainty of knowledge that they want to have actually has the opposite effect. It gives them an uncertainty, because in my worldview, nothing can change my existence. When I die, historical record, you can't change history. I don't believe in time travel, but I mean, it's still at some timeline, at some point, multiple world or possible world, I existed. That could never, ever be not true, unless there's a deity that is all powerful that can do something like that.
Exactly. So all of this knowledge they want to claim, and then they say, well, what about the the constants in the universe? Well, if miracles are true, we know that God not only could but has circumvented those quote unquote constants. So those are not constants. They're subjective. They're based on the will of God. There's nothing that's certain anymore. You can know nothing at all. Whereas at least I've got internal tests. I've got, the things that apparently look like this around me. If nothing else, my own existence and my own experiences, those existed. You can't even have that much. So if you flip it, their grounding, their foundation completely erodes away and is less solid than a hard solipsist even. I lose you again? You're muted, it looks like. I don't know how you got muted.
Oh, sorry about that.
Okay.
Push my button. What I was saying was, see, I do know your argument. That's something that I would have loved for you and Ronnie to have had a discussion about. I would love to have him, listen to your argument on that. But that obviously he wants to have on his channel or something, and that's where the problem lies.
Right. And to be honest, I don't even think it's that good of an argument. I mean, it's when I first started playing with it, it's like, okay, because I was just sick of the Sci-10 BS and all of that. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to figure out some way to turn this around. And luckily I came up with it. But do I think it's the thing that's going to kill presuppositionalism? Do I think it's the next Euthyphro dilemma? No. I mean, I'm not that flipping good.
No, but it's something that we're talking about, right?
Right. But the next argument that I made, I think is even better than that. The gnome argument about, and it's kind of based in the same deal as far as how Christianity or most religions want to claim morality, and specifically objective morality. And I think it does the exact opposite. I think there is no objective morality. You cannot have an action that in and of itself is good outside of following orders, namely the orders of God. And once you understand that, then you're doing things based off of what a authority figure is telling you, it's not surprising we get the Nazi regime. We get, mothers killing their children because they're hearing voices in their head telling them to do that. That's completely understandable. But at the same time, you can't claim those to be moral actions, even if they were based on a belief in a God. It erodes, not only erodes, it completely destroys morality at its foundation and turns everything into subjectivity, and you have no test at all to determine what is right and wrong. There's no way to determine right and wrong anymore with an omni-God. And again, those views I get 200, 300, 400 views on when I make those videos. When I go and yell and scream and have people cut me off and whatever, I get 30,000 views. It's just infuriating to, I shouldn't say infuriating. It's understandable, but
it's discouraging a little bit.
Exactly. And I think that's kind of a reason I tend to more and more, I guess, fall back until somebody calls me out. And then I'm like, all right, you want to talk? Let's talk. Because actually that's what I enjoy more than anything. Developing the arguments and all that, that's just, I don't know, that stems from the conversation. It's listening to these things and going, okay, how can I determine that that's more than likely not the case? And
see, I like listening to the arguments. I would, for example, like when I was listening to like G-Man and Krill have a debate the other night, or Reds and G, I like listening to people having a banter back and forth. And I like saying, okay, who do I think is having the better argument and why? And I'm not saying I'm very good at analyzing arguments, but it's something that I enjoy.
yeah,
I like
exactly.
listening to the discussion. You know, that's why people listen into. That's why people listen to this channel. They like to hear people have these things. Now, I grant there are times people do like the drama. They like to see things heated. It happens. I mean, but I tell you what, the best conversations were like the ones I had yesterday with the 24 people in the room. Nobody got heated. Nobody got upset. That is going to be one of the best things of all time last year for me.
Oh, right? And that's and that's exactly where I'm at the same point, is that having a place of neutral, of complete neutrality, that people can come and just air their conversation or their beliefs back and forth. You know, the New Covenant group, I used to have a show on there with Matthew Steele called Elephant in the Room. And that's what we thought that was going to be. And to be honest, I still think they still foster that in a lot of ways. But again, it didn't quite work out the way we envisioned. But that's what I would like to see. I would like to see someone who, I don't know how you could ever find a person like this, but like yourself or like Xbox or Shannon Rocky or whatever, that, and even there, you guys you are vested in this a little bit. I mean, there,
sure,
you have
no question about it. No question about it. I am.
It would be interesting to try to develop either a channel or a place of just complete neutrality, and find someone who can, if not in reality has that, could at least take on that persona and run it that way. Like I said, like it seems like, you know, Xbox can do, Shannon, Rocky, and the people I mentioned earlier. And I'm missing a whole lot of people. So sorry, guys, if I didn't mention you. I know you're out there and I'm just too ignorant or too brain dead right now to recall everybody. But I would love to see that. But again, how much of a buy-in would that be? Would that blow up and be a 30,000 sub type deal, or would it be a 100 type sub because it's too boring and there's not enough drama? I honestly don't know.
You know, I don't know how practical it'd be for one person to be like that, because we all have our bias. Let's be realistic here. The ability is the thing is not to not have a bias. The thing is to have the ability to put aside the bias and at least be objective, right? That's the key. But what I was thinking about doing, and it's funny you mentioned that, I was actually want to start another channel. I've got some names picked out. As a matter of fact, it's funny. Somebody actually put something said in a live feed today, something that I was like, damn, they may not know this, but that really sounds like a good channel. And I'm not going to mention it because I might use it, but I'll give them credit for it. But anyways, it would be like a panel where I have one respectful atheist, one respectful agnostic, myself, and then one respectful theist. And it'd be the panel, right?
Yeah.
And then people would come in. You'd have like two people having a discussion, and the three people would kind of evaluate the situation between the two. I think that would be entertaining.
You know what? That actually kind of mirrors the scientific vetting process when you go to get peer review, because that's kind of how you send your papers out. You don't send it to just the people that agree with you. You're supposed to send it to basically everybody and anybody that even has a dissenting view, so they can pick it apart. And you've got that. It's literally a panel of other scientists and experts in the field that are looking at your work and saying, okay, this looks good. We need to publish this because it adds to our, our understanding and whatever. So that'd be a very interesting channel. If you do it, let me know, especially send me the link. I'd love to watch that.
It'd be fun. It would be definitely fun. I started doing this thing before. I know you don't watch a lot of my stuff, but I had this thing called Steve's Court. And
yeah, I think I've seen that. Yeah.
Okay, so people would, run, did somebody do something wrong kind of thing, and we would talk about it for several hours. And I think almost every time we came into the right decision. That's kind of the format that I would be, or only it wouldn't be called Steve's Court. It's kind of pretentious, but something along the lines of just, I don't mind being pretentious, but for this thing, but when you have three different perspectives from the atheist, agnostic, and theist, you got to cover it from all angles. So no matter who comes in there, you have an atheist and a theist having a conversation. If the atheist in the panel is an honest atheist, you'd be like, you know what, that theist made some damn good freaking points.
Absolutely.
And that's the hardest one to find. I think I found theists that will admit that atheists will make some good points. I'm not going to lie, guys. It is very hard to find an atheist that will say a theist made good points. Now, not all of them, but it is more difficult.
You're absolutely right. I mean, and I get in trouble all the time for saying this, is that I can find just as many, if not more, dogmatic atheists as I can find for theists. Yeah. And I mean, I think that's a big problem we need to get around, is that we feel so, I guess, so secure in our beliefs that it almost anytime someone brings up something that doesn't follow those beliefs, instead of going, okay, let's look at that with a critical eye and really try to analyze it, it's just like, that's ridiculous. Are you kidding me? We know it's not a flat earth. Yeah, we do, but let's just hear what they have to say. As ridiculous it may be, let's just listen to it. And then we can pick it apart and go step by step. And maybe it's just because of, like I said, the way that I'd handle trolls, in that, okay, you think that's right. Let's go step by step and let's suss this out.
I still allow people to do that in my room. Come on in. If you want to run a flat earther thing, I still accept that. Well, but I can only allow so much, right? Flat Earth and young Earth, those are my things. If somebody wants to come in and they want to argue the Holocaust never happened, it's not worth my time. I don't want to have anything to do with that kind of stuff, right? It's just a limitation. It's not. I think they're great to have discussions like that, but I have to be practical about it, right?
Right, and I understand. And it's kind of like the Diet Coke versus Dr. Pepper deal. If that's not your flavor and you don't like to take on those type of people, absolutely understand. And I don't blame you, because they are. Oh, you want to talk about vitriolic and hate? Oh,
it's disgusting. Those rooms. Exactly. These Holocaust deniers, these homophobes, they're just. I have such a distaste in my mouth for these people. I'm hoping to God that in the future that we have a society where this is like people look back and go, God, how did people even think this way?
Yeah, and I think that's why I kind of come at it from the other end, because I hate to put it this way, but I identified with those people at one time. I was the bigot, at least as far. I was never really a bigot on a racial standpoint, but I was when it comes to homosexuality. I fully admit, up until my early 20s, I had luckily I never went to the extreme of, doing the hate bashing or the actual, any kind of physical deal, or even speaking with somebody, but that's probably because I was in Texas and I never really had it in my face. But to be honest, if it would have come up, I don't know how I would have reacted back then. May have been that idiot. I don't think I would have gone physical, but I guarantee you, there's a big part of me that really thinks I probably would have been the guy yelling them down and ridiculing them and just being the ignorant jackass in the street corner, telling them that they're, wrong. And I think that's why I identify with those people so much, in that I want to educate them into just how life-changing and how much better your life is after you come to realize that, what, those people are great people. There's you want to talk about one of the most loving and all-encompassing and caring groups of human beings, go to the LGBT community. They're wonderful human beings. And you're missing out on experiencing the love. I am in no way gay. I never have been. And it's not because I choose that. And in a lot of ways, I'll put it this way, especially when I was younger, I kind of wish I would. It doubles the target area. Exactly.
I know, no shit, right? You have 100% more chance to get a date.
There you go. Exactly. But for the first 20 years of my life, I missed out on potentially, I mean, I don't know it for sure, but potentially some relationships, at least on a friendship level, that I could have had. Mm-hmm. And not to mention, what happens if my kids are gay? What happens if,
exactly.
I mean, and I literally have family members that I think they would kick the kid out of the house. They would send them to these, farms to get them reconditioned. And
reparative therapy,
exactly,
therapy,
all of that kind of crap.
And then that's what I think they would do with the Clown Car Posse. If they ever have kids, God help the kids, but I think that's what I would see happening to them. They'd be ostracized. It's the same thing when people say, I don't want to believe in young earth creationism anymore. We have a person in our community, Max, who's very open about this. His father's a young earth creationist and a flat earther. And it's just, it drives him freaking mad. He's 18. He's educating himself. He knows this science is what he wants to get into. He wants to have a PhD in astrophysics, I believe he's going for. And his family's ostracized this because they're young earth creationists. And this is what I see happen when people that have a moral compass fight for what they believe in, and then they're being ostracized from their family or friends because they're not doing the bashing or the attacking or treating people with no respect. Or it boggles my mind, especially when like True just a little while ago when he was talking, you said about racism, but he's okay with bigotry and homophobia. He's completely fine with that. He advocates it even for the most part. I mean, he wants nothing to do with gay people, right?
Steve, I don't know if you can hear me. My sound just went out. Oh. As far as what I'm hearing you, I may have to refresh because I've only got about 20 minutes or so, but I don't know how long you want to stay on. So let me try to figure this out real quick. And
okay.
Damn it. I don't know what's going on.
Okay. I don't think you can hear me, guys, but we'll
there we go.
We'll wait for. Oh, they can hear me?
I'm back. Yep, I got it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to read it completely what I just said, but I'll just make it short. That I think it's funny that Ronnie was talking to you about how he's against racism, right? And he's always feeling like he's racially persecuted, although I've never seen an issue ever of somebody be persecuting because of his race. But he seems to be perfectly fine about bigotry and homophobia because they'll sit there and call Brenda with male pronouns. They'll sit there and call him or her like Bob or whatever fucking Matt Slick did.
Yeah.
They're fine with this shit, right? G-Man's the same way. They're all fine with disrespecting people. And at the same time, they'll sit there and go, but hey, we're being racially persecuted. Oh, yeah, we're being persecuted for our religious beliefs. I mean, the hypocrisy is palatable here.
Well, but again, it's understandable when you figure out where that's coming from.
Sure.
When they look at it, it's a mandate from an all good, all loving being, and you go against that will, which, again, you can debate that. I mean, there was nothing in the New Testament outside of Paul that says anything about homosexuality at all. Jesus never said a word about it.
Nothing.
And, so you go back and you look at, the Old Testament's clear. Well, yeah, but that's also about eating shellfish. Well, we can't do that's New Covenant. We don't have to worry about that anymore. Well, what about, but Paul talked a little bit about it in a couple of his letters. Don't you think it was important enough? Maybe Jesus would have said a word or two. But again, I don't want to get into those hair splitting because it's all.
Yeah, I mean, if something of that great importance and condemnation of your soul, I think that Jesus probably would have talked about it at some point. Don't you think?
That's the point. I mean, and there's so many issues like that, from the slavery standpoint to the, women's rights. On and on and on. I mean, there's so many things that's one of my main reasons that it's just difficult, if not impossible, for me to feel that the Bible, or for the most part, any religious texts, are valid, because they just miss so many of the, in my opinion, the important issues when it comes to morality and just caring about your fellow human being. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good stuff in there too. It's not all negative, but it's riddled with holes. It's not what I would expect from a all-knowing being that has one chance, apparently, to convey his message to us, and that's what he decided to pen. I'm sorry, that book is just.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I'm happy that you have these dialogues. I know that you're a busy person, and when you do have these dialogues, they make them count. I am going to be ending this soon. I want it to be a short thing so people can watch it, and listen to what you had to say, because again, you didn't get a chance to really say anything in True's room. We all know you can't really do that in True's room. I was really, like I said, proud of you that you stood your ground. And when he's like, hey, let's just have it right here, you're here. You pointed out to him again and again, that's not my intent or your intent to being into the room at that time. You don't want to have in his room. He cannot understand this. Nobody in that echo chamber is going to tell him what you meant. Even if they understood your position, they're never going to tell Ronnie he's wrong, right? They're not going to say, hey, Ronnie, I think that, maybe, Negation of P has a point here. They won't do it. They're just like, oh, he's a coward. He doesn't want to have this discussion. He doesn't want to have a debate. So you want to throw it out there one more time. If you do want to have a debate with him on you name the channel, he can accept it, he can decline it, and then it'd be over and done with.
And again, I don't have any channel specifically. I'm not, making him going on the drunken peasants with me, even if they'd have us. That's not my intent. What I'm saying is, and I put this, I wrote it in Skype to him, and he kind of read it semi, but more than I think about it, I think he did actually read it almost line for line. But anyway, what I was saying is look, I don't care the channel. You find me a Christian channel that doesn't block people, that doesn't, do this censorship type BS. Let me vet that channel. Let me look at it. And it looks like a person that's going to be fair and has a history of moderation that is fair, like, in my opinion, True Debate for You Talk Radio did. I'm more than happy to do this. Now, the problem that I think it runs into is when you get in their flavor of Christianity, it doesn't seem like you're going to be able to find anybody that does that. And I don't know why that is, but that group of individuals, I think, looks at blocking and censorship almost as a badge of honor. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, well, most of them they like to do the persecution porn. And I do understand people that block for certain reasons. I think that's a tool at our disposal. I know you're a lot more open than I am on it, but when you have so many people wanting to have a conversation in a live feed, and you have one person spamming nonsense, just literally spamming, right? Not engaging in the conversation, saying, hey, vote Trump, vote Hillary, whatever. That's just taking up space, and people cannot follow the conversation. So that's the kind of stuff that I eliminate.
And Steve, that's a great point, because you're absolutely right. I have never had to deal with that kind of stuff. And if I did have a hangout or whatever, and that's the way that it was going, I can't say that I wouldn't, warn them and then say, look, you do it again, I'm going to block you at least for the rest of this time. You're right. I
always give warnings too. I mean, literally, well, not always. I know some people are specific trolls, but for the most part, I'll be like, hey, don't spam, join the conversation and engage, but don't just sit there and spam. I try to give warnings at least.
So when this is kind of almost a, epiphany moment, in that when I make these hardline stances of, look, no one that blocks people I'm going to ever patronize, that's probably way too strong. Because if there is something out there that is, a valid reason, then okay. I mean, I understand why people would do that. Personally, for whatever reason, my personality is go on the offensive and attack those people. I shouldn't mandate that everybody do that. That's not right. I mean, my approach is not, therefore do it Ned's way. That makes no sense. So again, I appreciate that, because you opened my eyes there, and making that stance could, I guess,
you don't want to have channels that censor information. You don't want people that say, you know what, I disagree with you, Ronnie. Let me show you why you're wrong. That's the kind of thing that I am like, do not censor that kind of stuff. If somebody says, hey, Steve, in my live feed, or even wants to come in and say, hey, you're wrong on this, I'll be like, you know what? Hey, I'm willing to be, correct on this. Come on in, show me why I'm wrong, and do it in the live feed. I don't care, but I'm not gonna block them or censor them because they show me up and say, oh shit, I'll be like, I was wrong. That's what he's scared of. He does not want to be shown wrong in front of his people.
Yeah, and I think that's what I think that's how I need to, I guess, rephrase what I mean by blocking, because that's exactly what I'm talking about, is when you use the mute button and use the blocking tool to dissuade conversation or quell it altogether, that's what I have no tolerance for. But again, if the people using the comment section to do the exact opposite and troll, like you said, just keep putting vote Trump, or whatever they're going to put, to where nobody else can get in, and you see a meaningful comment because it scrolls through so fast, and that's doing the same thing. It's just censorship through, a blitzkrieg of random BS that means nothing. So that absolutely makes sense, that why you would have to stop that, because that does dissuade the conversation just as much as blocking people or censoring the comments. So great point there, man. Thanks. I mean, I'm being sincere that you really opened my eyes on this, and I'm going to change the way that I phrase that from now on, because it's not right, at least in my opinion.
Well, it's just one of those things that this, when we have so many conversations that, I picked up over the last year or so, what works, what doesn't work. I'm still learning, right? I mean, I'm going to make mistakes, but I have learned that you cannot have an open dialogue without having some closed dialogue, some restrictions, and that sounds weird, but it's the same thing. You never have like 100% security and 100% freedom at the same time, right?
Yep.
You can't live in a society where you have 100% both. You have to give one up for the other. But what you try to do is you have the most open dialogue as possible. That's the goal. It can never be pure. This is reality, but nothing in life is pure. But for the most part, everybody knows by now that my channel is one of the most fairest places to come to have a conversation. Yeah, and that's what I'm going for. That's my goal. Simple as that.
And I think that's indisputable. I mean, from what you're seeing and how you handle people that come on, and that's, I mean, I would love for you to host, but I know that y'all's, there's, and I guess that
never not going to ask. Yeah,
I guess that would be the better way, is if I turned around and said, okay, here are the people that I'm willing to have host, and I go, I'll host it on my channel because I have more subs than you, which I don't know if I do or not, but whatever. Or I've got one video that's got more views than you, and again, I don't even know if that's true. But I'll let Steve come in. He can moderate. I'll let JD King come in. I'll let Redline moderate. He'd lose his mind.
Hogtie would be a good choice. I want nothing. I'm not gonna lie to you. No offense to you, but I don't want anything to do with this debacle of debate between you and him. I just want to listen. Right? I mean, you're not picking on the cripple kid, but it's like, fuck. I cannot be neutral. I admit that I not be neutral. I'm not going to pretend that I would be, right? So,
and see, I think that's the deal, is that when you get people that are honest enough to go, look, this guy just grates. It'd be like me trying to moderate a debate with Matt Slick. There's no way I could do it. The disdain and the history that I have with him, I could not sit there on my hands, especially if I saw something that was blatant that needed to be pointed out. I know I couldn't do it. And therefore, I've got to bow out and say, sorry, guys, I'm biased. I can't do this. And again, good on you, because that shows integrity. That shows that you care more about the conversation than whatever personal gain you're going to grab from any of this, from views to subs to whatever. But again, the point is that I would never do that, because I understand that for whatever reason, he views all the people that I listed, and probably the rest of the internet for the most part, as untrustworthy and just trying to trap him and whatever. Great. I'm not going to throw that out there. I'm not going to mandate ridiculous terms that I know you're not going to agree to. Same time, I expect the same. I'm not going on a channel that I know will mute me, that has done in the past and will do it in the future.
Right. And by the way, I mean, if you said, oh, okay, I want to have it on Steve's channel, and Ronnie said no, I would be like, cool. I'd be like, I wouldn't expect him to, right? That would be unreasonable for you to ask him of that.
And that was the other thing. I was shocked. G-Man shows up out of nowhere and starts, and I know y'all couldn't hear him, but just,
I could barely hear him.
Oh, y'all could.
Yeah, if you watch the video, you could kind of make out what he was saying, because I heard him saying something like back Hebrew, Israelite, doubt, what is it for radio?
Debate.
Whatever the name of the channel, debate for radio. Yeah, debate for you.
Debate for you.
Yeah, I could have sworn I heard him. So
yeah, and I mean, again, he may have been bleeding through it in the background or whatever, but
it's like, bleed through
again, man, because I don't trust you on your channel. You're going to come in here and start, I don't know, yelling and screaming me down and tell me how I'm wrong and how I'm
amazing. Right?
I mean, again, it'd be like you if I'm holding a hangout, jumping in the middle of it and going, why, Ronnie, why won't you come on mine? Why won't, who cares? Right. Do we want to hear the conversation, or do we care about our personal gain? To me, I want the conversation. I could care less if I get one or I lose every damn sub I've got.
Right. I mean, well, I think we're going to leave it with that. I mean, the offer to Ronnie, obviously you'll have it open. If you guys could find a suitable channel, I think all the names that both of you guys have mentioned, I wouldn't have on any of them except for Xbox or Hogtie at this point. But you guys could find other, maybe Shanny. Those are good. Those three.
Yeah,
are
and I definitely neglected to mention Hog Tie. He's definitely someone.
Yeah, Hogtie would be but he's already been blocked by Ronnie, and he's now he went from being I love talking to Hogtie to Ronnie going Hogtie, he's just a lying piece of shit you can't trust, and this is like, are you serious? I'm like, the hog has fallen from grace, I guess. It's like, Ronnie, the one guy that has given you the most benefit of the doubt and the most charitable interpretations of anybody in this freaking community. You're like, I know that Hogtie. You see this is what Hogtie does. I'm like, wow, that is just beyond fucked up. If you're gonna stab somebody in the back, at least do it, right in front of them, dude. I'm like,
I know it's just. But man, yeah, thanks for doing this because, like I said, I don't do enough anymore, and I would have definitely.
I know you don't.
but
I do appreciate it very much. We had a lot of people listening to this. They'd like to hear what's going on, and of course, you couldn't get that out on Ronnie's. That's why I wanted to have a little one-on-one with you. So, have a safe trip. Be safe, and when you get back, I would like to have a hangout. I do play Microsoft Flight Simulator, right? So I like the topic, and maybe we can talk about like VRRs. I'm having a hard time doing like handoffs for radials.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
we can do that.
And just go over things like, okay, just the basic things of flight navigation and stuff like that.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Because I'm fascinated by it. I think flight is amazing. I never want to go up there. I don't want to fly a plane for real.
Really?
I don't know, but
I'll tell you, Steve, if you're interested, I mean, and this is no BS, there are no pilots anymore. The industry is completely just without pilots. When I first got into this, a new pilot could make about $10,000 or $12,000, with the airlines. When you're first starting off, it was nothing. Now they're starting pilots brand new out of the gate, no experience whatsoever, at about $60,000 with a $5,000 signing bonus.
I don't doubt that.
And I mean, because there's nobody out there anymore, and if you get your ratings and get the time that you need, you've got.
No, I don't want to go that far. I like the gameplay. I'm not gonna lie, but I like the theory. But I do like the theory behind it. The ailerons, the flaps, the rudder. I like to know what's going on in my head when I'm doing these simulations. That's the kind of thing. So no, I would never actually want to be a real pilot, but I do respect them immensely. I think a lot of it's automated anymore. I think the pilot is basically somebody who just gets the plane up, and then basically
that's why I focus where I do. That's why I don't go to the airlines, because I don't know if you know this, but like the new aircraft, like the Airbus 380s, the 777s, they literally, all they need is a tug to push them away from the gate. Once they're free of the gate, the airplane, completely autopilot, will taxi, take off, land, and taxi to their destination gate without a pilot ever touching the controls.
It's never incredible. Absolutely incredible. I mean, to have that kind of technology that can do that blows my freaking mind.
Yeah, and
even to this day.
And that's why I stay on the side of the industry that I do, because at least I get to fly the damn airplanes.
Yeah, you get to have some fun. Yeah. All right, that sounds like a plan. Awesome. I hope everybody. You got any last words?
No, just again, thanks. This was fun.
You're very welcome, and I appreciate everybody who's listening. I'm gonna end this one. I'm not gonna have a hangout for a little while longer, but if you guys want to discuss this later on, I'll be happy to discuss it, because I did listen to most of Ronnie's earlier hangout today when Negation was in there. I think a few other people did as well. So I just want to give Negation of P a little forum to express to Ronnie that he's not a cowardice. He's not running away. He's just explaining to him that, look, he's not going to have this on Ronnie's channel. He doesn't want to promote Ronnie's channel. He wants a fair channel to have these things on. I don't think that's too much to ask. And if the Clown Car Posse thinks it's too much to ask, then they should not be asking people to debate about anything. And with that, I hope everybody has a safe New Year tonight, and shalom.